Very nice.
Can we cover this one?
Inside the country.
Yeah, all this yes. But this program has got to. Okay, so you're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Very welcome this afternoon to UNFPA headquarters and the Orange Cafe. I am Anna Holstrom. I'm the Deputy Representative of UNFPA in Zambia, and I will be moderating today. And while we await the beginning of the event, maybe just to request that you make sure and double make sure that your phones are on silent. Especially in Tanzania, working to end female genital mutilation and gender-based violence as a support to a very committed feminist movement. As a global movement, we've made so much progress. As a global movement, we have faced so many challenges. And today, we are asking our panelists, what are the key factors that enable an acceleration? And we are here to hear stories about Ubuntu, about the spirit of humanity to each other. I would like to thank our speakers today, first of all, for being here today, but most of all, for your dedicated service. I will introduce all the speakers one by one during the panel discussion. But before that, we have an opening session and prepared remarks from our invited guests.
Merci, Madame, de me donner la parole. Madame la directrice exécutive, distinguées personnalités, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais tout d'abord féliciter la directrice exécutive de l'UNFPA, la docteure Natalia Kanem, pour l'organisation de ce panel de haut niveau qui vise à échanger sur les défis critiques et les innovations pour mettre fin à la violence à l'égard des femmes et des filles et aux mutilations génitales féminines.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Madam the Executive Director of UNFPA, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, participants to this high-level interactive dialogue on shared vision to end sorry, the microphone. So, Madam the Executive Director of UNFPA, distinguished guests, honorable participants. So, it's an honor for me to take part to this high-level interactive dialogue on shared vision to end gender-based violence and female genital mutilations.
Grâce aux efforts conjugués de l'ensemble des acteurs, nous avons pu aboutir à quelques résultats très probants que je vais essayer de lister, mais pas toutes.
And thanks to the combined efforts by various partners, both social, economic, political level, this led to many achievements that I will mention some, I cannot mention all of them here.
L'engagement et la volonté politique dans la lutte contre les mutilations génitales féminines, avec la création depuis 1990 d'un Conseil national de lutte contre la pratique de l'excision.
The commitment and the political will to combat female genital mutilations have brought about creation of the National Council, le Conseil national de lutte contre la pratique de l'excision. It's a national committee combating the practice of FGM on all its forms. This entity was created in 1990.
L'élaboration et la mise en œuvre de 5 plans quinquennaux, dont le dernier en date est pour la période 2022-2026.
Development and implementation.
Contre la clandestinité, la pratique transfrontalière et la mobilité des exciseuses et des exciseurs.
We have clandestinity, we have cross-border practice of FGM, which are challenges, among the challenges.
Le contexte sécuritaire et humanitaire difficile également constitue un défi.
And the complex security and humanitarian situation makes this fight more difficult.
L'appropriation de la lutte contre ces violences par les collectivités territoriales.
Ownership of this fight against FGM by the local governments is a challenge.
Et l'accès des victimes aux services de protection et de prise en charge.
Access of the victims to the social protection services, care.
La mobilisation des ressources financières suffisantes.
Mobilization of sufficient financial means.
Et la résistance au changement face aux normes sociales relatives aux inégalités de genre.
And resistance of latency from some part of the population toward the change of behavior towards these practices.
Je voudrais m'arrêter à cela, mais avant de conclure,
I would like to stop, but before that, let me conclude by saying,
je voudrais renouveler ma gratitude à l'UNFPA,
thank you to UNFPA,
dont l'accompagnement constant a permis d'atteindre des résultats fort appréciables.
Their consistent support have enabled us to reach many achievements.
Je voudrais également réaffirmer l'engagement des autorités de la transition
and allow me to reaffirm the commitment of the government of transition of Bina Faso
à poursuivre les efforts visant à mettre fin aux mutilations génitales féminines et aux violences à l'égard des femmes et des filles.
to carry on with any efforts, any actions to end FGM and any harmful behavior. Thank you.
Peace TV reporters have been active at the UN headquarters since 2010, the age of former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. They are often invited to gather pictures and news about high-level meetings and events at the UN headquarters. We usually report live on the scene the events of dozens of countries, including the US, France, the UK, Israel, Germany, Russia, Egypt, Kuwait, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and Morocco, and the EU at the UN headquarters and their residences in New York. Our news reports have, in part, kept the international community up to date with the work of different governments so that people everywhere will know the great efforts and contributions of the UN to world peace, international affairs, and multilateralism.
Respect each other, talk to each other. So this is exactly what we are trying to do here in this place with your activities, and in many countries where people are directly involved. We want to reach a shared vision, even if we start from different point of view. And it's very important that this shared vision could have some point of focus. And the focus is the dignity of the human being, each human person. I believe that in all cultures, I've traveled a little bit around the world before coming at the United Nations. in each culture, in each faith, there is this deep feeling of the dignity of the human person. And on that perception, we can build together, have a shared vision, and also learn how to change what should be changed without making this change more violent, because we are against violence anywhere. And
the Children's Code Act of 2022, and one of the ministers with the most substantial part in ensuring that that law was pushed through is here with us today. And I have the honor of welcoming Honorable Doreen Wamba, the Minister of Community Development and Social Services, to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished invited guests, I am delighted to be part of this high-level interactive dialogue aimed at sharing the vision of ending gender-based violence and female genital mutilation. The legal and policy framework plays a critical role in fighting gender-based violence by establishing a foundation of prevention, intervention, and protection. And I want to share with you that I'm also a survivor of gender-based violence. We cannot begin discussing financing before discussing the legal and policy framework. The legal and policy framework is key in establishing penalties and stipulates the rights of gender-based violence survivors.
Honorable Minister, Your Excellency, the Apostolic Nuncio, Your Excellency, the Permanent Representative of Bina Faso, thank you so much for gracing us with your wisdom. Esteemed partners, dear friends, dear young people, I greet you in peace, which, after all, is the noble purpose of the United Nations, and it is the wish of every woman, every girl that UNFPA serves all around the world. And that peace, that ability to live free from fear, free from harm, continues to elude women and girls, sadly, in every part of our world. Girls need to be safe online and to be free from fear of being insulted and stigmatized and shamed. Technology should be our friend, and it should be put to positive ends. So I hope that when you leave this room, that your actions are going to spell the difference in communicating what you know about protecting girls and dismantling FGM. And this is going to bring better health to the girls and much more happiness to their families. So we pledge to work together with you to plant those seeds of peace, to do the faithful work that we need to do to transform societies, for these changes to take root, and for women and girls to live confidently in peace, in freedom, and in full equality. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Anna, for coordinating.
Karibu sana hapa New York, na asante sana kwa kazi yako.
Asante sana. I'm very happy, very grateful for this good occasion. Talking of traditional practitioners, FGM in our project, we therefore took a committee of training. Sister Virginia, a Catholic nun of great experience, and her team trained this committee. Graced with very good preparation, this team, little by little, succeeded in great awareness and convicting the traditional elders to sit and talk about the need to eradicate FGM. Using your community-driven approach with discussion rooted in the Kura culture and its values, the project introduced alternative rites of passage to girls who attended a training, an approach that celebrates the transition from childhood to womanhood without the harmful practice of mutilation.
Before I start talking about what are some of the things that the movement can and how the movement can grow in momentum, I just want to recognize the different types of barriers that the movement has been going against for a really long time. If you know the Association of Women in Development, or AWID, they've published a really comprehensive report of all of the anti-rights actors, the anti-rights movement that is really well funded, that has core funding, and has long-term funding of up to 50 years. All of this we are experiencing amidst pushback of all of the anti-reproductive rights organizations, global conflicts that are rising up everywhere in the world. And at the same time, that is in the backdrop of somehow, and this is always being addressed, right? There's a bit of a lack of capacity in terms of how to engage with women's rights movements, a lack of understanding of how survivors movements also operate, which in turn is a problem with how we fund survivors movements, with how we fund grassroots movements at the same time.
So discrimination against my religious minorities is also part of right-wing extremism, political, national religious extremism. It's part of a continuum of discrimination that we are living at the height of. So yes, to deepen the partnerships, we need to make sure that we work multi-stakeholderly. We need to make sure that we're not just working on one issue, but we're learning lessons and harvesting the lessons of success from other movements. The feminist movement, the secular feminist movement, is an absolutely brilliant example, but it's also one which has been handicapped by the fact that they don't work with the multi-religious women's rights movements around the world. Imagine what a partnership that would be. And we have a challenge of A, addressing our own silos in the way that we engage, but B, also looking at how other examples from other kinds of discrimination have been very helpful. I have a small instance. The issues of success that we've heard come from the Christian communities. That is valuable, relevant, and necessary. But there are organizations of human rights, women's rights principles. They are the ones, they believe, they too, even though they are secular feminists, they believe that Islam upholds equality between men and women. And I think the strength of the work that we do comes from that common belief within the women's movement. I have to say that the work we do is very challenging. We have been dealing with a fatwa that we are deviants for subscribing to liberalism and religious pluralism. We're still in that court case right now, but I just want to bring news. Of course, with these challenges, there are also neighboring countries, and I would like to point out what's happening in Indonesia, where 2017, they had created feminist groups, women ulama. They had created this group called the Kongres Ulama Perempuan Indonesia, the Women Ulama Congress. They have issued religious findings.
In a local government called Rigasa in northern Nigeria. And upon the engagement, upon the adolescent bootcamp engagement Rukayat felt the need to go back and first and foremost help ensure that she reached out to her peers. So she had to help reach out to other girls in the community that were not in the camp to help say that let's see how well we could actually address issues. Let's form a movement first and foremost. So this movement was formed, and it started asking questions, asking religious leaders questions, asking traditional leaders questions. And this created an open platform for us to be able to get into the community, because traditional leaders, religious leaders started asking that what are you saying to our daughters? What are you helping inform them about? And one way or the other, they started challenging gender norms. These girls came up with a surveillance system at the community level, and with that surveillance system, they've been able to help ensure that they help stop at about 72 practices of female genital mutilation.
4 out of 5 female have undergone FGM. And it might not be as large as those in Africa, for instance, but the fact that it is happening is alarming. No girl deserves to have no right or to be deprived of her right to her own body. Now, what I want to tell you is that as a global movement, we take pride in our non-formal education method, in creating a learning environment where girls and young women like me can take the lead in issues that affect us. Briefly, we have the Stop the Violence campaign, which is a global campaign launched in 2011. And we have the Voices Against Violence curriculum, which is the educational program component of STV, which is in partnership with UN Women. And these initiatives are actually centered around prevention, because we believe in advocacy that is rooted in feminism and decolonialism, where we enable girls and young women like me to develop our advocacy projects ourselves. We don't have to wait for anyone or for anything. We can take on these issues ourselves. And that it emphasizes that there is no one-size-fits-all solution, BV, and was empowered by WAGS. So I got her permission actually to share this story. One night, she was riding a public transport on her way home when she was seated beside a drunk man. Long story short, she experienced sexual harassment in public transport. And her friends asked her when she told that story, "What were you wearing?" But she told them that she was wearing a uniform because she was from school. And all the more that nobody in the public transport spoke out for her. Everybody saw it happen, but no one dared speak out for her. And all that she remembered was that people were telling her that, oh, because he was drunk, or that because he was under an influence. Now, in 2020, WAGS partnered with Avon Foundation to develop Together We Rise project in Argentina, South Africa, and in the Philippines. And she was one of the participants to that national advocacy training. But even
much for your time and for sharing your wisdom and your shared vision with us. And for all of you for sharing your time with us. It's very precious, and we don't take that lightly. And I just want to shout out to everyone online who stayed with us, who's also on Zoom. Thank you for joining us. This was really an important opportunity for us to share stories, inspire action, and really think of how we can end gender-based violence and harmful practices finally. We heard about the criticality of diverse partnerships at all levels. To scale up, most importantly, scale up. Scale up. We know what works, and implement interventions that really work in communities. That's where it counts. The importance of innovation and adaptation, we also heard about. We heard about the importance of investment in women and girls and the approaches that we know will end violence and harmful practices. Above all, today was really another clarion call to action to redouble our efforts to prevent rollback of the hard-won gains made to keep women and girls safe from harm. We cannot rest until we turn the tide. Not when 2,000 girls a day are being cut. Not when 1 out of 3 women are still facing violence and abuse. The good news is, and we have to end on a positive note, I think, is that we know what works. We have the ambition, that is clear from everyone in this room and from everyone who has spoken today. And we have the global community on our side. We know what it will take, and let's make history and make all of these different violence and discrimination history. Let's continue to work together, our collective efforts, keep our unwavering commitment to women and girls and everyone. Let us do this for the future of every 10-year-old girl. She is counting on us. And I leave you with a Zambian proverb. The rock that is in the middle of the sea does not fear the rain. Once again, thank you all so much to our esteemed panelists, to our guests, for your dedication, your fearlessness, and your commitment. And welcome again to UNFPA to stand with you in this journey. Thank you so much.